make sure that I turn off the volume on Facebook, but we should be live here. Last time, remember, I was counting down to going live, and we were already live. So in theory, we are live here, guys. And so we should be going to have to make sure that I turn off the volume. There we go. Okay. So, hey, let's start with this. Apparently, we had two different times scheduled for our webinar today. We had one in the system I like scheduled at 10 a.m. Mountain, noon Eastern, which we did. And we're going, well, why do we have a relatively low turnout? And what it was is we had another, I don't know, 100 or so people registered for a webinar starting at 2 Eastern, 1 Central. And those of you who run a pretty big operation know, you always kind of look around to the staff and so forth and, you know, try to figure out who's to blame, to diagnose and prep yourself for next time. And we figured out who's to blame. And I hate when that happens, but it is my fault, and I apologize for that. I wish I could blame Grandmaster Smith or Bob Dunne or Merrick Gahura or the other 3 people involved in setting all this up and all the technical, but I can't. It's my fault, so I shall fall on my sword. And for everybody who wasted their time sitting there staring at an icon for GoToMeeting that said waiting for host, I am that host, and you were waiting for me, and I ate up your time, and for that I am eternally in your debt and apologize for that. But anyway, hey guys, we are live on Facebook, and there is a recording. We're recording this as well, so we'll repost this into our Facebook group. We'll repost it into our Facebook page, and we'll email out the link to everybody who didn't make it. On this Facebook live cast, you as a live participant, or frankly later if you're watching the recording, are welcome to put questions of any sort in that. And if you ask those questions live, there is a few second delay. If you ask those questions live, I'll try to keep an eye on it and answer those questions myself, or welcome Bob Dunne, or welcome Jeff Smith. Hey, let's introduce ourselves for those who don't know. And I will introduce myself first as something other than the guy who screwed up the timeline today. I am Stephen Oliver, if you don't know, and I am founder, CEO of Martial Arts Wealth, also founder, CEO of Mile High Karate. And I've been running martial arts schools, I say professionally, since 1974. The first few years were laughable, truthfully, compared to what we know now. But truly, I started running martial arts school professionally as I worked my way through Georgetown University, working directly under Grandmaster Jeff Smith, Nick Okinas, and June Reed. Then I opened my Mile High Karate chain of schools in 1983, which is, I don't know, a long time ago now. What are we at, Master Smith? 34 years ago now. Part of my claim to fame, I guess, was I opened 5 schools in 18 months, 6 schools in 36 months, and in today's terms, ended up with a $2.5 to $3 million operation by the time I was 25, with 1,500 active students, and then grew from there. I also had the fortune or misfortune of being a NASCA World Tour promoter, and I love NASCA. I love all the promoters. However, they have a very difficult job at a relatively low remuneration. And I did that for 10 years and retired after 10 years. So God bless them, and my close friends, Mike Sawyer, Mike McCoy, Larry Carnahan, and all the rest. I won't try to go through all. Do a fabulous job. I support them 100%, but I don't want to be one of them. Master Smith keeps trying to volunteer to throw me back in that ring. And I say, you're welcome to have the name and do it, but it's not me. I have volunteered, by the way, to show up for the final show and wave and watch it if you decide you want to renew that legacy, Master Smith.
Thank you.
But anyway, so Grandmaster Smith here, and I'll give you the quick introduction, I guess. Master Smith is former world light heavyweight kickboxing champion. We could also say Don King's heavyweight kickboxing champion when you beat the snot out of Kareem Allah on the most watched martial arts event in the history. Far exceeds anything the UFC has done. You had 50 million live viewers on the Ollie Frazier undercard. But you were the #1 point fighter before that. More importantly, for our purposes, for the purposes of our meeting, is I have personally been responsible for generating well over $100 million in revenue from schools that were directly owned by me and under my purview, under Mile High Karate. The two of us together and you individually have been responsible for, what do we figure, at least 100,000 students through Junior Institute, your schools, and then Mile High Karate, and well over probably $250,000, not $250,000, $250 million, so well over $250 million in revenue from martial arts school, which by anybody's count is a lot. Also introducing here Bob Dunne with his multi pictures in the background. And Bob, you have been doing
couple of decades now. Yeah. I remember back in 2001 with NAPA, National Association of Professional Martial Artists. And it's been a little over a decade working with you directly, helping school owners around the globe. So it's been enjoyable. And
you don't look a day over 25.
It's that Florida sun.
That's right. That's right. Turns everybody into lizards. Colorado sun isn't any more forgiving, by the way, with less humidity. But Bob, you've been working directly with martial arts schools, as you said, for many, many, many years. And let's start. I mean, our topic is how to make December your best month ever, and we are redoing a webinar that we have already done today, so we should be pretty well practiced. But generally, we want to cover two topics. One is marketing in December, which it is fascinating that most of the industry, including most of the bozo explosion of wacky wannabe self-appointed consultants, think that December is a slow month. And what we have been having, frankly, along with July, which is the other month they think is slow, is we've been having December and July be two of our busiest months for intros, new enrollments, which surprises most people that I talk to. So we want to spend time talking about that. The other thing we want to spend time talking about is how to make December your absolute best cash month of the year. I mean, bar none. Master Smith, an idea I got from you many years ago. We'll talk about that when we get there. But is how to have December be revenue-wise equal to maybe any 3 months of the year. To give you an example, one of our members, I believe 2 years ago, he did $200,000 in 1 month cash, plus added another $8,000 or $10,000 to his billing that kicked in January just from this one idea. So we want to address and talk about both of those things. And again, if you're watching live, what I will tell you is feel free to ask any questions you want there in the comments box, and we will try to pay attention. Again, recognizing there's a little delay between us and the live cast. But anyway, Matt Smith and Mr. Dunne, let's talk about December marketing. We just, on our previous webinar, unannounced, we had one of our members, Thomas Wright. Thomas's background is he started working with us. He was doing $7,500 a month, getting ready to quit the business altogether. And by the way, charging, I think, $85 a month. And he now is, what did he say this morning, Master Smith? Best month of the year was $49,000, I believe. And on average, he's well into the 40s, low to mid 40s every month. He is, we have decided, because Colby Winkler came up with this, that our elevator pitch is kind of what Colby said, is he started working with us when he was doing 35,000 gross a month, and he is now netting well over that. It's kind of our elevator pitch is turn the net profit into the gross revenue into the net profit. In other words, Thomas is making probably triple what he was grossing before. Making meaning takes it home, puts it in his personal bank account, spends it on house, car, kids, savings, investments, whatever it might be. But really, when you're in business, I think there's really only two objectives. Master Smith, tell me if this is wrong. From a personal perspective, there is fulfill your mission and have a dramatic impact positively on the community. From a professional standpoint, there is minimize the headaches and take home as much money as you can. Again, within the mission of having a really positive impact on your students and the community, and providing a super high quality service, which means you're going to be doing just as well in 10, 15, 20 years as you are now, because you're not going to have pissed off and tried to fool your community. Is that a good way to say it, Mr. Smith?
Yeah, it goes back to the saying, if you help enough people get what they want, then you can get what you want. And, you know, we found that we've helped kids, you know, reaching their goals to black belt and beyond, but it's not about the belt. It's not even about the kicking and the punching. It's about the character development. It's about the confidence, the discipline, the respect, you know, the things, the positive impact that we've had on the students that the parents have told us, that really becomes the real catalyst. How we give back to the community, you know, part of our black belt requirements are, you know, they have to do a community service project. So even these younger kids are learning about how to give back to the community and doing things that are charitable or helpful to the community. And, you know, there's a lot of kids that are in junior high or elementary school that don't even think anything about that. And we have kids that now understand the importance of that. So, yeah, we've developed a lot of top fighters, a lot of top form competitors and martial artists, but I'm most proud of some of our students from our Sterling school that, you know, one of our black belts who graduated #1 in his class at Annapolis. You know, it's hard to get into Annapolis, but then graduate #1 in your class. Another one of our black belts who graduated from our Sterling school was a commander in the Naval Academy. Commander now in the Navy, one of the top decorated underwater divers. He was the base commander in Panama City at the Naval and Diving Rescue Operation and Training Center, which trains all the military from all forms all over the world. So, you know, situations like that. And when we were at Annapolis at one of our live events, training our members in our mastery group, he was there and was able to come up and give us a behind the scenes tour and talk to our members and told them how much he got out of his training. Those are the kind of things that that impact me and tell me that we're on the right track.
Yeah, and the thing about that is we just had a bunch of our members at our black belt retreat, and I remember Adam Lux, he made the comment of any of those people who think that you're just about marketing, you go shove rope or something like that. He has an interesting way of phrasing things, but he dubbed it the test that never ended because it went on for 48 hours pretty much straight through. And we had also former New York City Police Commissioner Bernard Carrick there working with the students. And but let's again, our two topics are marketing in December and then how to make December your best month ever. But I do want to point out for all the martial artists out there, I mean, I am known as the #1 marketing person in the martial arts industry, bar none. I think that's not being too conceited to say that as a reputation. Certainly, Master Smith, you know, there may be some people who can stay in the same category as you, but you certainly, nobody can claim that you're not a real fighter, a real martial artist, and one of the top 5 teachers in the world, as well as one of the best competitors in martial arts that ever lived. And what we get a lot of times is people think we're just teaching tricky business stuff, but the reality is all of the business content we're doing is designed to create a student that you keep long term, that you have a dramatic positive impact on. And unfortunately, what I see, you know, our industry, and by the way, every industry in the age of the internet, YouTube, Facebook, social media, across the board, is everybody has decided they're an expert and a consultant. Most of them have either never accomplished anything. And again, I saw some really bad advice posted just this morning by a good friend of mine who has a distant memory of running successful schools, and now is basically anything he teaches people, you should do the opposite, and you're more likely to have some success. But in this area, what most of the folks who are trying to teach you how to be better at teaching students, they're not teaching you the secrets to retention. They're just teaching you higher level of technique, charisma, floor management and operations. The two are very different. Retention has to do with relationship, and it has to do with goals. If you don't manage the relationship and help teach them how to have long-term high-level goals, no matter how much fun they're having on a day-by-day basis, it's more like going to a movie or going to a play, and then something else catches their attention. But Matt Smith, let's talk about him, Mr. Dunne. Let's talk about marketing in December. An example that we used earlier was one of our members doing a movie theater promotion. And again, watching a couple of my friends, different ones, but I had somebody I talked to who had talked to one of the other consultants said, oh, that movie thing is hard to do. It's hard to get in. They won't let you do it. Well, it's really simple. We know how to just go directly to the organization that handles 80% of the screens in the United States. You write them a check. It's really simple. And oftentimes we can then build relationships and be able to go back inexpensively or free. But we had one of our members in a movie theater promotion in December. And of course, Thanksgiving to Christmas tends to be the number one highest grossing movie season of the year, with summer number two. Occasionally it's flipped. But what we do know is since Disney has bought Star Wars last year and the year before were the highest grossing movies of the year. We had a member in Houston who went in and did a promotion with Star Wars that we coached him through how to set it up, how to talk to people, how to make appointments and so forth. He created 850 leads in 2 weekends. And I don't know the rest of his numbers, to tell you the truth. I don't remember that top of my head. I do know what the numbers tend to look like. Is a number I remember is Colby Winkler in a similar situation, had 180 leads, 160 appointments, 100 that showed up for intros, 54 that ended up enrolling, and that preceded his month where he did 200,000 cash. So that's a typical number. Worst case, 80% or 90% of the people you interact with, you make an appointment. Half or 60 or 70%, but at least half show up. Half or 60, 70% end up enrolling. So 850, 800 appointments, 400 intros, 200 enrollments is kind of worst case if done correctly. And now a lot of those enrollments were not in December. A lot of those enrollments were in January, February. But still, that might be better results than a lot of people watching this had in a year. That was from one promotional activity. Matt Smith, talk about some of the other things that student generation.
Some of those numbers are, it's important because sometimes people think that, when you have somebody that calls a school or stops in and wants to do a class, they're saying, we're enrolling at 80 or 90%. Well, that's good. And that's usually the numbers. But when you start doing the live events, you don't get that same percentage. And like you said, it's normally about 50% of the people who make an appointment. You're going to have, of the ones that you get the leads. If I had, our summer, we had the big Karate Kid movie with Will Smith's son. I know that summer we got about, in a 2.5 month period, we had about 1,200 leads. And out of those 1,200 leads, we ended up with about 600 intros. And out of those 600 intros, we enrolled almost 200 students in that 2.5 month period of time. So it's not the percentage when you're dealing with those kind of numbers, it's the actual number itself. How many enrollments did you get? So
yeah, well, and maybe it overcomplicated is what happens is if somebody tells you there is a ratio that you should hit at each stage, they're overgeneralizing, because really it's every different source of enrollments is going to have a different ratio, and there's a spectrum. There's how promotional you are and how much you got to them. before they were really thinking about this and searching for it, versus on the other end, they were seeking you out. If somebody, went on a quest to find a martial arts school and walked in your door and said, I want to enroll in martial arts, you have to be a brain dead idiot not to enroll almost 100% of those. On the other side, in the past, an infomercial on TV or a 30-second spot would generate huge volumes of traffic with a fairly weak conversion ratio. Newspaper advertising would have lower traffic, much higher conversion ratio. Sequential repetitious direct mail would have almost 100% conversion once they came in. So there's always that spectrum. And as you said, Master Smith, if I'm out getting to them at an elementary school or at a movie theater or at a marathon or someplace like that, if I'm doing a live event marketing, the ratios are going to be weaker, but the volume can be massive. So that's absolutely a good way to think about that. But let's talk about some of the other things you can do specifically for Christmas. One thing that I like to talk about is direct mail advertising. And what has happened is people think that for some reason direct mail is dead or it doesn't work or something. But what they miss is the number one criteria for direct mail working is who you mail the piece to, right? And what we should be doing all the time is everybody who raised their hand at a live event, everybody who came into an intro and didn't enroll, everybody who called and didn't come in, every lead that you get, whatever stage of the pipeline, but certainly the further along in the pipeline they are, the better. They're the best prospect. I can mail to something blind, every door direct or something like that, or a Valpak or money mailer that just hits no other criteria than geographic. That may have a really low response rate. If it's inexpensive enough, that's fine. But if I mail to somebody who came into an intro in August and didn't enroll, that's going to have a much higher responsiveness. If I mail to somebody who enrolled in my school for a year, dropped out after 5 or 6 months, that's going to have a big response rate. And oftentimes what, again, kind of the bozo explosion in our industry is we have ended up with, people who, one, have gotten convinced that all they should do is do email follow-up. So they put them in a constant, never-ending sequential email follow-up. And of course, that doesn't work very well. It's better than nothing. It doesn't cost much, but it doesn't work very well. You've got to have that constant and never-ending follow-up. And we have, I think, about 70 people watching. We have several who are on here live. And welcome, Daniel. Welcome, Andy. Feel free to ask any and all questions that you have. And for any of you who are watching who showed up for our earlier scheduled webinar at 2 Eastern, I apologize again for having wasted your time. It was operator error, and that operator was me. We showed up and did a webinar 2 hours early for a small group of people, but didn't in fact show up at the time that you may have been notified of. But anyway, so Master Smith, explain some other things that work really well in December.
Well, the thing for everybody to remember, first of all and foremost, is that the only time you're going to have a bad month is when you decide it's going to be a bad month. One of the things I learned many years ago back when working with the Junior organization, we knew in advance that December was a tough month. So what we started doing is gearing up for it, doing more marketing, doing more upgrades, putting systems into play and marketing stuff into play that it prevents December from being the worst month. As a matter of fact, it turned into the best month. And I realized then at that time that whenever you put enough effort into marketing, regardless of what month, and that's why you were saying July was, which a lot of people write off July as vacation month, and people getting back to school and not going to sign up because they're all on summer vacation is just the opposite if you, take care of it. So it's all about the marketing. And one of the things that you've emphasized a lot with our members was that it's not one or two things that you do, but it's a Parthenon. It's a multifaceted phase of marketing where you have to have 12 to 15 or more marketing ideas that are going on, both internal marketing and external marketing. Some things are a low cost, high labor intensive. Some things are high cost and it doesn't take much labor. It all depends on what your budget can afford as far as that. But even for the schools who don't have an advertising budget to speak of, there are things that you can do that are labor intensive that you can still generate a lot of traffic. One of the things we've had a lot of success with, and I've heard people say, oh, we don't do those anymore because they don't work. Well, they don't work because you haven't worked it properly. It's birthday parties. These are friends of your students. We utilize our student base, and all you need, we say to really capitalize and get the maximum benefit out of internal marketing is you need 100 students. And these schools that have 200 and 300 are going to get even better results. The schools that only have 50 students, it's hard to do a lot of internal marketing to get enough traction. But with 100 or more, you can actually keep this going for the whole year. And birthday parties is one of our best because you have a list ahead of time, and these are friends of your students. So you're able to capitalize on that. Birthday parties only happen once a year. So with your students, we also implemented the pizza party. And we do that for our students for special events. And when a new student signs up, we'll give them some gift certificates for a $200 pizza party where it's like a birthday party, but they invite their friends, and it's a special occasion, end of school, beginning of summer, any end of sport activity they just finished. So things you can do there. Buddy events are one of our biggest draws. Each month you should have a couple internal buddy events where they bring a buddy to class, and it could be a nunchuck, a foam chuck seminar, a board breaking seminar, or something that their buddies would like to do. A lot of times during this time of the year, kids are off on vacation, so a lot of the schools do a winter camp. And you can invite them to bring their classmates into this winter camp where they get a week or two of training in the school, kind of like your summer camp.
And not to interrupt your flow, because I want you to keep that thought. We do have two topics we want to hit. We want to hit marketing for new students. We want to hit the best month ever on cash. But I wanted to welcome former member Richard Tim, Mike Hewell. I wanted to welcome Andy, Tom Athens, Matt Ahmed, Gonzalo Cabrera. And I also wanted to thank Raymond Alls, David Bennett, Tim Calvin, Jeff Cielo, Nicola Colonata, Randy Cooligan, forgive me if I mispronounced any names, Oliver Drexler, Chris Shilera, Joseph Judd, Audra Kareem, Janet Lappin, Eugene Madri, Derek Moretta, Julius Malagrito, James Olson, Alan Chioletta, Derek Riddick, Ivan Rolls, Leonard Sly, Dale Stingerwell, Jesse Thornton, Tomas Torok, Joe Trinkus, Richard Walker, Ryan Young, and frankly a bunch of others. I won't go through the full list, but those are all people who took advantage of our Black Friday offer, which I want to tell you guys a little bit about. But we're going to be doing a live interactive quick start bonus session tomorrow. Everybody will be on video camera. You get to ask any questions you want. For anybody who's watching us live now, I offered to extend that Black Friday offer for the next couple of hours. The page is still up. It's martialartswealth.com/Black Friday promo. So you can take advantage of that right now if you want, if you haven't already. But I want to thank everybody who did, and a few people got caught up in the technical loops on Black Friday, actually. I think the internet's a little bit.
Those that have technical issues with the computer and can't get on, they can always call Bob Dunne. There's his picture on the screen. Bob, give him your number directly to call you, and you can sign him up for that special right over the phone. He's muted. If you can unmute.
Absolutely, yeah. It's my phone number is 720. I will put it in a message center too. 720-256-0208. That's my direct line, so I can help anybody out there.
Say it one more time. You kind of broke up in the middle.
720-256-0208. And I also posted the link up there also for since you're extending that Black Friday special, sir, I put it up there in the message center.
Yeah, not for very long. I mean, if somebody wants to take advantage of that, let me briefly, I want to do lots and lots of content, but tell everybody really what that was all about is, what we do behind the scenes, and I don't mean this to sound, in any way condescending to anybody, but really what we did behind the scenes is we sat down and we said, we have an awful lot of people who contact us who frankly aren't at a point where they can justify working with us or they can afford working with us. And roughly, if a school is 15, 20,000 a month or 50, 60, 70, 80, they can have tremendous value working with us. On the earlier session, we were talking with Thomas Wright, who started working with us at $7,500 a month. Now he's at, as we said before, in the 40s with the best month this year so far of 47 or 49,000. But what I will tell you about that is that if the reason we created this product is to let small schools have the quick and relatively easy, affordable way of adding 100 net new students to their school, which done right is going to be adding a net 20,000 or a gross 20,000 in revenue, so that for our own self-interest, they can get up to a point of being able to afford working with us. So from a very self-interested standpoint, I freely admit, is we said, what is it we could do? What's the best material we could give a smaller school to help jumpstart them and get to that point where they can be involved with our full program? And so what it is we took Grandmaster Jeff Smith here, and I believe there's 3 hours, which you get online and physically, of him doing everything he can do on grassroots marketing cheaply and inexpensively to gain new students. Then, and by the way, you get the audio as a digital MP3 download, also in CD. You get the video, so we're making it available both online. You'll get access to a website, as well as we're going to mail you a big box of material. But you get the audio, you get the video, and you get the transcripts. So if you're like me and you like to read, you can go through the transcripts. And if you like to watch video like we're doing now, you can watch it online or download it, or you can download the MP3 into your iPhone or your Android phone or into your car, whatever, and play it as you're more able to do it and don't have to sit and watch it while you're on a computer screen. But what I will say is, this is really a product that should have been priced at about $10,000. And our self-interest is to give it to school owners in such an affordable way that if you implement it, you'll then be able to qualify for our higher level programs. And frankly, you'll think we walk on water, because we will have taught you how to have doubled, tripled, or quadrupled your school almost overnight. But the rest of it is recorded live just a couple of months ago. Is myself, Master Smith, Greg Moody, and a team of about 60 of the top school operators in the world spending one full day on what's working now. Again, this was recorded in August 2017, this year, of what's working right now, Facebook, Google, grassroots, etc., to fill your school, followed by a full day of, for our members, their problem tends to be Not that they don't have enough new students coming in, but they're drinking from a fire hose. Literally, they have more traffic coming in than they can handle. So we spent a full day on how to handle a massive volume of new students and the entire sales process through to the new enrollment, pricing, etc. So, I mean, that's all in there. It's, I believe it's 15 CDs, 6 DVDs, a website with all of it, plus the transcripts. And the transcripts, I don't even know how many pages, but it's a lot.
And the marketing blueprint.
Oh, absolutely. And the marketing blueprint. The marketing blueprint is an exact blueprint, 12-month blueprint that was actually implemented for my schools and Master Smith schools for Mile High Karate. So it's a 12-month, January, February, March, April, full year marketing blueprint of implementation that will show you in practical terms how to implement that as you go. And again, I invite anybody watching us live to ask any questions you want here in the on the live cast. We have a little bit of a delay, but I'm trying to pay attention to that and answer any questions you want. And again, we've got I don't know, 147 people who have watched the video as we're doing it so far. So welcome to everybody there, and some of you I've recognized already. If I haven't, welcome. Master Smith, let's take a moment and talk about our other subject, which is how to make December your #1 cash month of the year. And this is an idea, as I mentioned before, I believe it was 1985. And we were sitting at the Battle of Atlanta, and I remember you made an offhand comment, and the funny backstory is I had my Mile High Karate jacket on, and it had a line drawing that was the first and last time I ever used it, because while I was kind of proud of it, you made fun of it the entire time. And what will be recognizable to many people on the call, if you've ever seen a flying sidekick line drawing that is now, I keep saying NBL, but it's ski or whatever they call it, their regional tour, the flying sidekick photo is me, which we always considered it both funny and annoying when I was a NASCAR promoter, is the competing circuit was using me as their logo. If you were an EFC member, every payment book, statement, envelope, contract, letter they had that went out to students had my picture on it. Last time I was at an EFC convention, a whole bunch of school owners thought I was weird because I kept pointing at their patch, because there was, when I stopped counting, like 100 schools that had that flying sidekick picture that I had never used before, taken of me in 1984, used first in 1985 once, and then I never used again. So maybe I'll repost that for everybody so you can get a sense. The actual picture, you know, you can recognize it because my backhand is like this. Was it like that or like that? I forget. I just remember the backhand had the thumb up, and the line drawing, instead of the foot looking level, made the toes look like they're going up a little bit, which is what you laughed at, Master Smith, and I never used it again. But the idea was this. You said it already. Whatever you would think would be your worst month of the year, sit down, take the blank legal pad out, and figure out how to make that your best month of the year. And the word you used earlier, which we're going to boycott, is upgrade. What the reason we're going to boycott it, by the way, is the bozo explosion of consultants has butchered the term. And for some, it's come to have a pretty negative meaning, meaning just trying to talk somebody into paying more money for no good reason. And for others, it is a term that has been butchered. I call it a why bother renewal. Is I see a bunch of guys who are now, you know, you do a year trial enrollment, or you can do the upgrade, and the upgrade adds $10 or adds $20 a month, and you get to be in the competition team, or you get to do something else. And what's worst is, you know, guys who do a 6-month or a year enrollment, and then the renewal, the upgrade is the same length of time for like $20 a month more per month. I don't understand why you would even bother. That's why I call it a why bother. What we're talking about, though, is taking the student through a process where they really set their goals long-term to be with you and be a black belt, where they really focus on the long-term commitment that they're making for the benefit and the outcome for the program, and then they renew. And what you can do in December is really one of 2 or 3 things. One is if you don't already have a black belt club or a leadership or a master club, and Master Smith, when you shared the idea with me, it was all the way back to Junior Institute implementing Master Club, I believe, in 1985. And you told me the numbers before. How much did you do in revenue at the Junior Institute from that one idea way back then?
Yeah, and it was before 85. It was closer into the 80s. But what?
Probably 83.
Yeah, when Master Ree had his program, when I came, they had a black belt program, but they didn't have anything beyond that. And so what was happening is everybody was getting to black belt and kind of quitting. A couple of reasons for that, but one of the reasons is we hadn't set a higher goal for them. We didn't have a program that committed them to a higher program. We didn't have something that was visible enough. So that's when we started the Master Club. And of course, Master Ree, the first thing he said to me is, well, why would anybody pay to continue after black belt? Right now, I'm not charging them anything and they won't stay. And I said, well, that's because we don't have a class and we don't have a set structured curriculum like we did getting to black belt with testing cycles. So once we got that straight, I said, well, let me try it. And I charged them as much for second degree as we did for black belt. And that was a 3.5-year commitment. And second degree was just 2 more years. And I ended up at our school there in Kensington with 50 upgrades that month just to the Master Club, not counting my regular black belt. And of course, the dollar value on that at that point in time, we weren't charging, we're talking late 70s, early 80s prices. It was about $3,000 then for that 2-year program. And when you have 50 of them, it was close to $200,000 in actual, dollar revenue potential.
Yeah, well, and maybe I missed it. Matt Allman has a question here I want to get to. And anybody else who has a question live, feel free to ask right here in the Facebook group. And again, there'll be a little delay. There's a little delay from our live cast to it going live on Facebook, and a little bit of a delay probably with me seeing it and us responding. But Matt Smith, how much in actual revenue? You told me earlier, what was it, 30 years ago, 55,000 per school?
Well, when I finally implemented it in all the schools, and I had all the schools do it, it amounted at that time, the schools, we averaged out that month about 55,000 per school. And now this was early 80s dollars. So that's of course a lot more these days.
Yeah, that's 120, 130,000 cash in 1 month.
Again, at 55, we had some that were doing, higher than that, some that were doing lower than that, but it averaged out to about that for 12 schools.
Yeah, that's across a big organization. And the other thing, by the way, we're not talking about and never talking about just cashing everybody out. That's a dumbassery way to do things. But dumbassery on the other side is not being willing to let people pay a big down payment or pay in full if they want to. What happens is, we used the example of Colby Winkler before, who did 200,000 cash in 1 month. But the other thing is that was 55 renewals at an average of an extra 150 a month billing. So it was close to 8,000 a month in increased billing that kicked in January. So you add the extra billing that kicks in, which is 100,000 for the year, extra billing, the cash immediately, and it's not cashing everybody out. It's maybe 10 or 15% due. But Matt here has a question, and Matt, your question is best way to capture adult leads, bring a buddy, fitness challenges, referral drives, New Year's commitment, and so forth. And maybe as you asked that question, and I took a look, it looks like you're a Kuksuwan school. So I'm not being responsive to you directly, but before I answer that question, let me point out that in our industry, there seems to be kind of a split between there's the MMA camp, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, Muay Thai. Maybe I can throw in Krav Maga. I'm not saying Krav is MMA, but I'll throw in the Krav group. Schools are teaching full MMA or maybe boxing and MMA. And then there's the more traditional Kuk Sool Won, Taekwondo, Tang Soo Do, Kung Fu, anything, Chinese, Japanese, whatever, Kempo. But the traditionalists seem to have gotten locked into a mindset of advertising doesn't work and all of their focus is on referrals. Or it's referrals and flyers and, a couple things like that. The MMA group, and I think I started it, I'll take credit for it at least, is when I wrote that first book on internet marketing, I dubbed it the Extraordinary Marketing Program. And then I had a boot camp. I wrote the book on internet marketing in 1980. That was back when the only pay-per-click source was GoTo, which was bought by Yahoo and they called Overture. And then the number one search engine to do search engine optimization was Alta Vista.
What year was that?
2000.
Yeah, you said 80.
Oh, no, the year 2000. 1980, the internet wasn't, wasn't even the Internal Defense Department. But in 2000, when I wrote that book, a couple, everything has changed, but a lot of things have changed. But one thing that has that sparked is Lloyd Irving and a number of other, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, Savate, one thing or another, lump all of you guys in the MMA category, got started on the internet side of it. And so it seems like MMA schools or some iteration thereof tend to be so fixated on internet marketing and fixated especially on Google pay-per-click and SEO that they have a hard time getting the blinders off and getting what Master Smith, you already mentioned before, that Parthenon, which I stole from Jay Abraham. But the Parthenon is have 20 things that work every month. And one category has to be referrals. A lot of the kids' schools have gotten the idea, birthday parties and buddy days and one thing or another, oftentimes do it poorly, but have gotten the idea for that. We focus heavily also on family add-ons, mostly bringing a child in, adding mom and dad on. The MMA version is you bring an adult in and you add their kids, assuming you're teaching kids. But also publicity and PR. Master Smith, you and I came from, the number one person who ever lived in the martial arts industry, maybe second only to Bruce Lee and maybe Muhammad Ali, if you want to consider that. But Jun Rhee was as good as it's ever gotten from a school owner standpoint of developing free press. He was in the Washington Post all the time, CNN, TV, radio, everywhere you could look. But that's one pillar of the Parthenon, being really good at online, offline, mostly offline, getting real media and being the subject of the news. Another pillar of that is community outreach. Community outreach can be live event marketing. We talked about movie theaters and marathons, all that kind of stuff. Or it can be community outreach directly into community centers. I've had tremendous success with directly going out and working with elementary schools and generating literally, I don't know, what would you guess, Master Smith, 15,000 enrollments directly working with elementary schools where everybody else or a lot of other people tell me, oh, you can't do that. They won't let you do that.
That was in Denver alone, that area.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, without it being anybody else I've worked with. But you've got to have that Parthenon of referrals, family add-ons, community outreach, publicity. The online side where people get fixated is understanding. Online, you've got Google, which all it is the new version of the Yellow Pages. Google tends to be, and I know there's retargeting, there's other things, there's buying banners, but generally Google is the 800-pound gorilla of the digital version of the Yellow Pages. It's wait till somebody is out looking for a school, show up in front of them, and then take them to a web page, get an opt-in, get them on the phone, make an appointment. Facebook is more like a targeted magazine or a targeted newspaper ad where you can get to people before they've had that idea. What happens in a month like December is not a lot of people who would have been opening the Yellow Pages now Googling martial arts school, Denver, Colorado, or Houston, Texas, or whatever. But the MMA schools have gotten fixated on the modern equivalent of the Yellow Pages, meaning Google, in part because they had a huge crowd coming to them. I got to tell you, if you're doing cardio kick, Bob, you were in the middle of this. If you did cardio kickboxing when Billy Blanks was on live infomercial 24/7, you were getting flooded with traffic. MMA schools have benefited from UFC, and I've been a critic in the past, but it truly did and continues to, but not as much as it did, create a huge flow of especially adult men looking to train in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, Muay Thai, or true MMA. And Matt, to your responsive to your question, how do you generate adults? Well, there's all kinds of different sources. You can, go to the movie theater, whether it's Thor, it's Justice League, or Star Wars. There's an awful lot of adults that come through there, and you can market in live events. You can go to, fun runs, home and garden shows. You can go to, marathons. So those are all kinds of live events things. You can get publicity about adult programs. We had an article that would have cost me $30,000 if I had paid for it. That was full cover of the style section, half of the back cover of the style section of the Denver Post at the time. It had 850,000 distribution on our adult cardio kickboxing program. We had another one on an adult woman who had leukemia, who earned her black belt. Another one about an adult who was 86 when he earned his black belt. And I could go on and on. All of those focused on adults. All of them created a huge amount of phone traffic. You can do referral events for adults, but you've got to do events that an adult would feel comfortable bringing an adult to. You typically don't do a birthday party for an adult, but Eric Williams Hine-Wynn, one of our top clients, Elite MMA in Houston, they have one school doing what, Master Smith, 150,000, well, 1.5 million a year, and they have several branches that are, I think, in around 500,000, 600,000 a year. They do great with rent out the top floor of Woody Wild Wing, have a buddy referral for UFC fights. So you've got to find something that works well. What we all know, I think, is, especially in the adult market, that January is a huge month. Going out to your direct mailing for prospects, going out to all of your advertising, hitting Facebook hard, especially with a fitness tilt to it. All of those things work really well. And again, everybody else is watching live, and we got a lot of people. Feel free to ask questions here. We'll try to be responsive. And Master Smith, we've been going for about, Mr. Dunne, I'm used to saying Moody. We've been going, I think, for about 45 minutes live. We'll try to cap it in an hour, which rarely happens. But let's go back to what you were saying before Matt asked that question. Matt, was that helpful? If not, feel free to ask a follow-up, and we'll get back to
one more from Matt, Master Oliver. If you remember at our last live event in Keystone, Colorado, just a few weeks ago, on that Thursday night before our training on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, we had everybody, all of our members at our Thornton Mile High Karate, and quite a few of the members were commenting about how many adults were in the class, and your response to that, I think, might help Matt.
Well, yeah, and I see some other questions here too. And Matt, yeah, it says you have to get to teaching. The recording will be up here, so you can catch up on the rest of them when you're done. Daniel Perez, and good to talk to you, Daniel. We'd love to have you back as part of the family. Daniel, you're asking about Christmas boutiques, obviously shopping malls, movie theaters, Star Wars. You've got the shopping malls, of course, the busiest, as well as Star Wars. But you've got all kinds of different holiday events and so forth. On direct mail, See, it's not so much the area to hit. The thing that makes direct mail work is the list. If you've been doing a lot of live events, what you probably haven't done is follow up on them very well. Or perhaps what you've been doing is just leaving them in a forever email, but not doing much else. Right now, for a holiday special, and especially right after Christmas for a New Year's special, the best place to use direct mail are leads who have already raised their hand and expressed interest. The closer they were to enrolling, the more responsive they'll be. So if they came to an intro and didn't enroll, that's a little bit better than if they made an appointment and didn't show up. That's a little bit better than if they gave you contact information and never set an appointment, and that's better than if they just gave you a lead and nothing else happened. But the best place to focus direct mail is on that list. Second best place to focus on direct mail constantly, repetitiously, forever, are everybody who ever enrolled and then dropped out. And, you know, we underestimate the value of getting those people back into class. Number two, we underestimate the value of staying in contact, maintaining a relationship, because they oftentimes end up being add the son or daughter, sister, brother, referral source, because they had hopefully a very positive experience with you, faded out. Most people who dropped out didn't drop out because they didn't like you. They dropped out because life got in the way, right? I love insights how to apply this. Okay, so Michael runs a yoga teacher training session. Michael, I'd be happy to talk with you about joint venturing in that arena. All of the marketing principles are exactly the same. I work directly with people who are me in other words, coaches and consultants with music schools, dance schools, with directly to chiropractic clinics, directly with dentists. You're saying, Matt Smith?
Hair places.
Yeah, hair salons. I've worked in coaching, consulting in that. But an awful lot of people who are in very similar businesses, which are all membership based, you know, and again, whether it's a medical. Based. Say it again.
Referral based.
Yeah, sometimes. But I'd be happy to talk to you more about that, Michael. You might give Bob a call and we can, I was just talking to some gentleman recently working with him who does works with chiropractors directly. Again, all the same principles apply. Some of the methodology is a little different, but all the same principles apply. You know, the other one I'm working with, Master Smith, is churches, working with them on their marketing. They don't call it marketing, but working with them on their community outreach and their hospitality, which is their way of saying if a new person comes in, making sure they convert them to an ongoing member of the church. But yeah, I'd be happy to talk to you about that. Yeah, we're about out of time. But if somebody who's watching this, if you're a $150,000 a year, all the way up to $5 or $6 million a year school owner, we really should talk. Bob would love to schedule you a time to talk to Master Smith and myself one-on-one and show you how we can, in almost all cases, take what your current gross revenue is and work on your system so that that becomes your personal net profit. A school doing $30,000 a month gross right now, we can turn that into a school where the owner's keeping $35,000, $40,000 a month. And you know, that's a big difference, by the way. I talked to a lot of people who have, you know, one worst case recently was had 350 students grossing like $35,000 a month, was working his ass off 12-hour days, making a trivial amount of money for himself. We can take that school and we can turn it into a $500,000 a year net. So if you're in that category, we should talk personally. Bob, your number, again, you posted in here, was
720-256-0208. So that's 720-256-0208.
Yeah, so give Bob a call. If you're a, you know, just getting started, or you're a $5,000 a month or $7,000 a month school, if you have 10 students or 40 students, the reason we created that Black Friday special, that whole product, which sells for, by the way, what is it normally, Bob, 1,200?
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
we made it available at just, what is it, 198 for 3 payments. So we made available, I mean, it should be priced at 10,000. We priced it at 1,200. Then we made it half price with 3 payments. We did that so that a small school, and if that's you, a small school, can get to the point where they can justify working with us and really getting into a high 6-figure income. But anyway, I guess we have to call it a day. If there's any last questions, I'd be happy to answer it. Master Smith, what would you leave them with for today?
That 12-month marketing plan that you're giving them, you know, that I find is one of the biggest failings or misgivings for most of the martial arts schools I talk to, is they don't really have a marketing plan. They do a few things each month, but they don't have a set plan. See, we have a Parthenon of 12 to 15 or more activities each month that you're doing, and you have to have the year planned out. So this is the time to be setting that goal and that 12-month marketing plan for next year. I've never seen a successful business in any field be very successful without a marketing plan, much less wing it from month to month. So just that 12-month marketing plan is more than worth that investment in that Black Friday special that you're still offering.
Oh yeah, I mean it's worth 10,000 by itself.
And doing it right too. I think it's important. I mean, there's going to be a lot of people that said, "Oh, I've done that or tried that and it didn't work." I posted a testimonial directly from Matt White. I mean, this was unscripted. This was off the cuff. I mean, he just came out of the blue and he said, "You know, I've done some live events hundreds of times, never got any results." And he said, once joining the group and actually learned the systems on how to do it, because my results, you know, were phenomenal. You know, so I mean, it's just important to make sure that you know, that don't discount something because you might have tried it one time and got little results. Again, you know,
and to help everybody with that, you're offering that free quick start program for those people who did buy the packet tomorrow. So or those that buy it today will be able to join in on that call tomorrow, which you'll go into more detail on how to implement a lot of that stuff.
Yeah, we're going to take that link down pretty quick. So if they want to take advantage of that offer, you should go do it now. martialartswealth.com/Black Friday promo, PROMO, because we're going to, well, we're going to leave the program up, but the price will double back, be back to where it would normally be, which is still very inexpensive. But for Black Friday, we made it $198 for 3 payments. So, you know, if you're serious about running a school, you'd be a moron not to get that. And you know, there are some in our industry, truth be told.
If Bob could give his number again for those that have any issue getting through, you know, on the internet to register for it or to get it, they can call him directly. Your number again, Bob, 720?
720-256-0208. 720-256-0208.
Perfect. Okay, I guess with that, we'll. I want to leave everybody with one thought. And by the way, to explain, Master Smith, the quick start is we're going to do a live meeting, but it's fully interactive. It's not like this as a webinar format. Everybody will be on camera, open mic, ask any questions. We're going to do a little quick start meeting tomorrow, and then we may do a follow up. I don't know. But what I want to leave everybody with is this, is, you know, I tell anyone who asks that, you know, in the martial arts industry, I was born with a silver spoon in my mouth. What I don't mean by that is I started my schools with money. I didn't come from a rich family. I had my parents loaned me $10,000 and I had a pocket full of credit cards. But what I did have is I did have a mindset and expectation that had been set by Jeff Smith and June Rhee and Nick Okinis, by that entire team we were working with, especially by Grandmaster Smith here, because my mission when I went to Denver was to have my first school, which was in Lakewood, Colorado, beat his best school, which was at the time Annandale, Virginia, which I think, Master Smith, that one was doing what, at the time, like $800,000 a year?
Yeah, we were in the 50 to 60,000 a month.
Yeah. Well, and that's 30 years ago. So 60 a month in is 180 now, or almost.
Yep.
But I had a mindset, and my mindset led me to never open a school with less than 100 students in the first month. That 100 students immediately put us at break even. And then in the third month, I would go and renew them all, basically do the same thing we're talking about here, about your best month in December. School number one paid for school number two, school number two paid for number three, three paid for four, four paid for five, five paid for six, and it was just a snowball on the way through. But I will leave you with this, is if you don't change your mindset about what you're doing, get out of your own way, stop saying I tried that, it didn't work, but really open your mind to fixing the things and making it work. But also, if you're running a $100,000 a year school, why aren't you running $1 million a year school? If you're working a job you don't like to run the school at night, why the hell are you doing that? Why don't you just jump and have the net appear and be a full-time professional? If you're running a school, there is no conflict between making a $250,000, $300,000, $500,000, $600,000 a year personal income and serving your students at the highest level. And as Master Smith, you started the call by saying, or the meeting by saying, Zig Ziglar's quote, you can have everything in life that you want if you help enough other people get what they want. That's what we're in business for. You shouldn't be ashamed of making it a very lucrative business, but at the same time, and by the way, Master Smith and I are both in the multiple car club here. You bought 3 new cars in the last 30 days. Is that right? And sadly, none of them for yourself. 2 daughters and a wife. I guess Sean's getting left out of the mix there. I better tell Sean it's his turn. And by the way, Matt Smith, if you want to downsize, I ended up with a BMW with only 445 horsepower, twin turbo V8. But if you want to downsize a little bit on that SUV, there's the Jaguar, there's the Porsche Cayenne, and of course the Beamer that I just bought.
Thanks. I've already been looking.
Yeah, I will give you all of my research on that. You knew about that, Bob. After the drunk hit me in the Volvo, I traded it for. And by the way, the BMW was the negotiated. It was negotiated by the rest of the family that I needed to have 7 seats, and this BMW had the fold-up back seats. The Porsche Cayenne did not. So I settled for the twin-turbo 445 horsepower BMW X5 5.I M, whatever the hell it is, BMW, because I wanted the Porsche, and I wouldn't be able to fit 7. Well, let's see, wouldn't be able to fit 6 Rugrats, 5 of them in the second or third row. So that was the one that we settled for. And as you know, I'm an equal opportunity. I've got every German mark in my garage now. What I've got, well, I don't have an Audi. I have a Mercedes, a BMW, a Porsche, and a BMW motorcycle, and your Harley. So we've got one of each. And I'm thinking about trading the CL55 AMG for the 650 iX convertible. So we will see if I can restrain myself from that one.
Good trade. My vote's in.
Your vote's in for the convertible?
Yeah.
Well, it's got about 50 less horsepower, but it is all-wheel drive.
There you go.
Yeah, the Mercedes is not.
You got to have that, especially in the mountains where you live.
The Mercedes with the race slicks, biggest damn tires I've ever seen, and 500 horsepower is, to say the least, scary in the snow.
Especially coming down off your mountain.
Yeah, a better word for it might be suicidal, but I'll leave it with scary. Okay, so thank you, everybody, and we'll make the replay available. And if you want to jump on that Black Friday special, do it quick, because we're only going to leave the link up there for a couple more hours, and we're going to take it down, put the price back to where it should be.
Everybody who bought that, if you didn't get the email with the link, give Bob a call. and he'll give you the send you the link.
Absolutely. Okay. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day, and we'll be signing off here if I can figure out how to do that.
Okay.
Take care. Bye-bye.